Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's kind of kick this off and let people know who you are and who you serve.
Yeah, so I'm Wendy Margolin. I am here on the podcast from Chicago, and I help health and wellness experts stand out online with content marketing. So that's mostly in emails and websites and social media.
Awesome. So, when you talk about social media, this is a topic that I don't typically cover a lot. This is a huge weak spot for me.
Y-
Even though I kind of know what to do, I kind of fail with the execution, and sometimes I don't always walk the walk. So, a lot of people will kind of skip this step. Again, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of going right to ads. So, a lot of people wonder why you even need organic marketing if you can just run ads. Like, why bother? What is the benefit
Right.
there?
Good question. Okay, so I'm glad you asked because, first of all, like you said, people do feel this way, but I think that the nature of social media is that there's a lot of pressure and you're constantly comparing yourself, even if you're a confident person in real life. The minute you get on there, you see what other people are doing and you almost forget where you're at. So the nature of it is that you, no matter how great a job you're doing, you can feel a little bit insecure in that space. Whereas the ad space is much more comfortable because that's you logging into the business manager and you create your ads and you're not looking at other people unless you're like, looking through that deep dive of that ad library where you could look at people and kind of get ideas from them. But you're really not comparing yourself there. So the nature of social media is that it can be challenging to feel like you're doing it right, even when you're doing a great job. So I think you're in good company and you're probably doing better than you think. And that goes for anyone else who feels like that who's listening. So, what I would say though is that your ads are going to perform better when you have strong organic content. So, organic content is really what it's about. If all you are creating ads and then they get to your page and there's not much of you there, then it's just not as authentic. Your organic content is where you're able to really focus on how you serve others, whereas ads are like a commercial. That's a snippet of you. And when your organic content is solid there, then people are going to be able to get to know you, find a piece of you that they like maybe they just like how you talk or how you're real or how you perform on a video. I don't want to say perform, just how you teach. It's really where you have a space to put you. Maybe it's your business, but then once in a while there's your dog, or once in a while there's your kid. And you always tie it back to your business because here we're talking about business. We're not talking about our personal Facebook profiles or our personal Instagram profiles, but ones that we're using for business. It's where you can really be a real person. And when your organic content is strong, it actually makes your ads cheaper, which I'm sure you know. So if you have a really strong performing organic post and then you put some money behind that, it just lends credibility to you. And so it shows Facebook that this is something people already want to see. And then it shows the people who are seeing it that, oh, this is something that people already find interesting. So to me, social media starts with organic. That's the point. And then ads are something that we're able to do when, you have more budget and and you just want to reach higher goals and bigger goals than you can do with organic content because organic is still only going to take you so far, especially now where you really have there's just so much content going up every single second. I just read recently that from the dawn of man until 2003, that amount of data that's created is now created in 2 days. So every 2 days, we create the same amount of data up there in some cloud or
Yeah.
on some server as that we ever created from the dawn of man until 2003.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. I'd
Right? That's
never heard that
crazy.
before. But I guess
Yeah, I
make
just read it. So
it does make
I
sense.
think I read it in the New York Times. So So there's a crazy amount of content out there that you have to compete with. So ads do play a part. I don't want to downplay that, but organic is essential and it also supports your ads.
Right, absolutely. I love how you mentioned that it's part of your whole social media ecosystem. It's not just ads, it's not just organic marketing. A lot of times I'll find that people only focus on one or the other, and they definitely can, like you said, not only complement each other, but also amplify each other.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. And something else that I love what you said, I actually like wrote it down in my notepad because I wanted to
Ah,
come back to it. But I love how you said that a lot of times on social media, we can get nervous looking at what other people are doing. And it's almost like paralyzing to get in front of them. But what I love that you said is, people could really resonate with what you say in organic social media in a different way than how they can connect with you on an ad. And in some markets that are so saturated, like marketing, like Facebook
yeah.
advertising, it can feel like, I'm not going to put anything original out there. There are so many people doing this, but I
Mhm.
love how you said that, you know, not everybody, no, well, really, nobody can teach what you teach the way you teach it. But the only way to show people, your style or show people the behind the scenes or show people who you are is to get out in front of them via organic
Right.
social media. So I love that you brought
Right.
that up.
Right.
Because especially if you're in a saturated market, it is so important to create that, social media profile. So when people see an ad, it's not just another ad. They can click over to your profile and get more of a sense of who you are, how you're different, what makes you stand out, what you can offer people, even if it's just a style of teaching, or even if it's just, I know a lot of times, like when I listen to people's podcasts, I don't know if you relate to this. If they don't have children, I can't relate to anything they say about routines or diet or exercise. Like, so I am not downplaying that at all. I just can't relate to them. But
Right.
I would never know if they weren't, getting out in front of me. So I'm very glad when people are upfront about like, this is my lifestyle. This is what makes me different. So I'm
Right.
really glad that you said that that is a great
Right.
way to organic social media marketing is a great way to really draw attention to those
Right.
differences and those unique attributes about yourself.
Yeah, I think a good way to compare it in real life would be that your ads are how you present yourself to someone you want to impress the first time. So maybe a job interview, maybe when you meet a professor or teacher, like whatever it is, someone who you're trying to impress for the first time. That's your ad version of you. So think of how you act in that situation and then how different are you when you're there when you're trying to be a supportive friend or even just a supportive neighbor, like someone who people can rely on. That's a very different version of you.
Exactly.
So that's your organic version of your content. Is the kind of person that you are when you show up in your community, as opposed to the kind of person you are when you show up for a job interview. Both versions of you are real and true and important, but you need both sides of that.
Yeah. And people need to understand both sides of that equation before they really get that know, like, and trust factor and actually
Yeah,
convert into a paying customer or a client.
right.
So when we're talking about social media content and actually like the ins and outs, like getting in the weeds of it, what kind of content do you typically recommend that does well on its own?
Yeah, okay, so good question. And every platform is really different, and every single person and business on there is really different. So, I'm not, your audience is probably mostly on Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yes.
Okay. So on Facebook and Instagram, I would just play around and do different versions of content. And you could even take the same concept. You don't want to reiterate the exact same thing. You could change it, but sometimes it could be a video. Sometimes it's a carousel. Sometimes it's one slide. Sometimes not a slide, but one post. And sometimes it's a GIF. And do that. And if you were to do that 2 or 3 times, you'll know what your audience is relating to the most. You'll start to see what they react to and what they like. So it really depends on you. So in terms of that visual piece, that's going to depend on you and your audience. Just as a side, if you have any listeners on LinkedIn, I found that LinkedIn, the best performing posts are always my plain content. So just text and maybe some emojis, but that's it. My videos bomb there, whether I upload them or include a link. And up until recently, I've heard it's changed, but I'm still not even totally sold. LinkedIn used to punish you, not punish you, but it didn't show your post as much if you put a link in the post. So you'd have to say link in the comments and put it in the first comment. So that's LinkedIn. So every channel is different, and really every user is different. So you want to see what kind of visuals do the best. In terms of the text, because that's so important on all the channels, like it used to be Instagram, really just the image was the most important part. And I would argue now that the image and the content is really important, because the image is what's going to get people to stop and look at that content that you've written there. But the content is what's going to help you really grow your business, depending on what you're saying there. So the most important thing, no matter what channel you're on and what your business is to always be focusing on, with everything you post, how is this helping my audience? So if you ask yourself that every single time, you're going to create content where you're thinking of you and not me. So social media, when you use it for yourself, it's really about me, right? I want to show my kids, my dogs, me on my bike, whatever. It's about showing me to the world. And that's how we all started out when we started using it. I'm kind of old, so I was on it in the beginning. And back in like '08, '07 or so, just as a user. And all we did was just put photos of ourselves doing whatever. Right. And then as businesses, I work with a lot of businesses who are still posting like it's 2010. They're posting pictures of that here's so and so's birthday in the office or whatever. So you would use it to talk about yourself. But really, you might talk about yourself still, but you're talking about yourself for the sake of your audience. It's always about, what can I do for you? When you have that in mind and you really internalize that and believe it, then your content is going to perform better. So, do you want me to dive into a couple like ways that you can start?
Yeah, sure. That would be great.
Yeah.
But before
Okay.
you get there,
Yeah.
just really quickly, I love how you said how the Instagram caption is so much more important now than ever. And I don't know if you've seen this to be true, but I feel like once people started scheduling posts, the quality of the caption started going way down because people were just kind of like checking
Mhm.
like a checklist box off there, like, oh, I have to schedule 7 Instagram posts. So they just kind of write whatever they think. Whereas
Interesting.
before, people were posting it more on the fly. So it was more organic, it was more authentic.
What they were feeling.
Right.
Okay,
So
that's an interesting observation.
so I love how you said that the caption now is more important because not a lot of people are putting a lot of thought, and not a lot of businesses at least are not putting a lot of thought into that caption. So that is a great
Interesting.
like low hanging fruit way to kind of stand out on Instagram, because now everyone knows that they, as a business owner, they need to be on Instagram, but they're kind of just treating it as like a checklist item. So I love that you
Hmm.
said that about the caption, and also what you said about how everything is kind of changing like on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you remember, like probably like 5 or 6 years ago, it was like an absolute no to ever use text only posts on Facebook because Facebook likes images and things like that. So then
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
used images. But then some people started going against the grain and doing text only. And
Mhm.
just the mere fact that they were going against the grain started making those posts perform better. So the takeaway
Mhm.
that I thought that was so brilliant how you put that, and what I would love for people to take away is that this is a learning process. Like there are no black and white rules. So I love how you said to see what works for your audience, because
Mhm.
a lot of people say, well, so and so says to do this, so and so says to do this, so and so says this is bad and this will hurt your chances with the algorithm. But it's so important to mix it up, see what sticks, and just keep learning. What happened or what was working a couple years ago isn't working now, but we only know that because we kept changing, we kept tweaking, we kept
Yeah.
seeing what worked with our audience. So before we moved on, I just kind of wanted to break those points out a little, because a lot of you kind of like I said them very casually, but I thought they were very brilliant points that I want people to kind of remember. So now getting back, we were talking about
Yeah.
content and things like that. So if you wanted to kind of do a little bit deeper dive now that we
Sure.
summarized
Yeah.
that
So
segment.
I'll get into a few ideas about content, and then I can also talk to you a little bit about how to make this easier, because I don't want to overwhelm people when I'm diving into you should do this. But again, just I think the important thing is to when you stop feeling like it's all a game and you feel like, I'm really out here to help people and to get my message out, and that's what I'm trying to do here. And if you start from that place, then it doesn't feel as much like, oh, what's going to work the best, So you want people to see it because you want to help the most people, but it's really not, it doesn't have to be a game. You don't have to be a public figure. You don't need tens of thousands of followers to succeed in your niche or in your area, depending on your business. So, okay. So a few things that you can do for content that are like ways to kind of grab attention. So first you want to have a great image, obviously, especially on Instagram, like we were saying. But assuming that you've worked out your image and you have something that is going to be interesting or fun or eye catching, then you always want like that first line of text is really important. So just assume that everybody is so incredibly busy. Like I heard today on a podcast by Story Brand, she was talking about how like she likes to come from a place where wasn't the original Donald Miller. It was someone else who was doing their podcast. And she was saying that she likes to think of people who it's like Friday afternoon and they're in high school and they're trying to get out of class. Like no one has time, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Everyone's just like overstimulated, overworked, we're distracted, we're busy. So your first line is really, really important. So let's say you want to share something. You don't want to dive into the story, even though you want to share the story because you think it'll resonate with people. Don't dive into the story. Say something at the beginning like, can you relate to this? Has this ever happened to you? Drop an emoji if this has happened to you. Do you know what I mean? Like give them an instruction right away that's like, um, who else can relate to this? And then it's like, what happened to her? Do you know what I'm saying? You kind of open it up with
Yeah.
a little bit of not just a question, but a question that makes it right away about them.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I love how you put that specific example, because so often people want to bring it back to themselves and they love offering like personal anecdotes and they love jumping in. And like, that's the reason we engage in social media, is because we want to feel a connection. We want to, chime in. So when brands feel like they're just talking at us instead of with us, I think it has a very different effect. And I love the way you ask that question about, immediately people are going to be like, oh, can I relate to this?
Yeah,
It's because people love, to bring it back to themselves. It's not a bad thing. It's just our human nature. So I love that example.
right, right. And this goes, so my background is in writing originally. I've been a writer for 20 years. So I always come at it from a writing perspective. So this will apply to your writing, whether it's on social or on your emails, if you do that, or if you were to write blogs. So um, a lot of times we as the writer, we think about how we're talking to everybody. So we'll say like you all or all you guys, hey, you guys, whatever you want to say like that. But really, who's your reader? It's one person every time. And our goal as business owners is to reach that one person and have that person feel like she is the one that I'm talking to. Right. So start from a place of thinking about how to help, but also I recommend starting from a place of thinking about your most ideal client or customer and talk right to them. Okay. So um, have like Sarah in mind, this person that you love working with, you wish you could clone her, and then think about what does she want to say, and then say it right to her. So use the word you, don't use you all, and use and say the kinds of things that you know would really help her. So that's another thing that I would say, use the word you. And I also recommend asking for like your followers opinion. So you could say like this or that, give me a vote. Let's say you want to talk about your dog because it's National Pet Day and your dog is really cute and your fans usually like to see your dog. But instead of just posting your dog, you can say on Facebook and be like, post yours. Oh my gosh, if you are like, I work mostly with healthcare. If you do that, you will get every single patient with their pet in the comments. Um,
Or like their
especially on
kids'
like,
Halloween pictures. People like love to show that stuff off.
yeah, so don't just show your office in their Halloween costumes. Say, do either do a contest where you ask them to DM you theirs or tag you in theirs, or ask them to drop their own photo in the emojis or in the comments, whatever it is. On Instagram, you can't do that. So you want them to DM you or tag you, but just always give them a call to action and make that really, really obvious. So I would say those three things to make that first line be something that's going to stand out and make them feel like they have they want to pay more attention. So stop that scroll and address your audience as you, and really have one specific person in mind when you write it, and then also just to give them a call to action. So something that you want them to do that you think they might actually do. So, let's say it's pet day and it's Instagram and it's like, leave a cat or dog. Which one are you, cat or dog? And put it in the comments. So that's going to really help your engagement.
And I love I love that example. You're giving such great examples. So, what I see a lot of people doing on social media is they're asking their audience questions, but they're not making it easy for them to answer. So, they'll say something like, do you have plans this weekend? And like, that is such a broad question. Like, I don't feel compelled to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the
Mhm.
grocery store and then I'm going to paint our bedroom and then I'm going to take my kids to the park. Like, it doesn't compel me. It's too complicated. It's too open ended. But I love like the very simple, like cat or dog. Cause I'm like, oh, dog. Like, that takes me 2
Yeah,
seconds and
yeah.
it's very clear. So many businesses ask those very broad questions. And I love how you gave those examples that where it's so easy to answer, like put one emoji or one worded answer, but it is that engagement that is so important.
Right, right. I like your question about the weekend. So for that, maybe your two images are, one is like a sloth or something, and one is like someone, at a party, these two gifts.
Which are you?
And then you're like, which one are you? Which one are you for this weekend? And then you could tell your story about how you've had the really hard week and you're going to be the sloth. And then ask them again, which one are you? Let me know, A or B, in the comments.
Right. And it's so easy for somebody to take action on that instead of just typing out their whole weekend plans. Cause yeah. So I could
Yeah.
keep talking about that, but I think we got the point across. But I love also how you brought up those super hyper engaging pictures or posts rather, where you're going to get a ton of engagement. I remember when I owned my indoor playground, I knew, like, very similar to what you said about the like a doctor's office. I knew exactly, like, if I reposted like a parenting meme, like, it didn't really drive business, but it got so much engagement, and I knew that it would because I tested it. I called those like engagement boosters, where like, because I found
Hmm.
that if I posted even just like a silly meme, it got so many likes and comments, and then my subsequent posts would actually do better because
Exactly.
the people would start seeing my post more and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that
That's
engagement is
something.
really that gold standard.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of businesses struggle with because they'll feel like, well, posting a GIF about a parenting meme, maybe you're a pediatrician or like you're a play group, this play business, they'll be like, well, it's not on brand. And it's like, right, but do you want to succeed on this channel? And do you want your important content that comes up next to be seen?
Right. Not every single post has to sell something or has to drive
Right,
people to a website. There are
right,
other, things that are important, like liking, commenting, sharing, that are more important on social media.
right.
So I love that example. So let's
Yeah.
talk about engagement, because we've already kind of talked about why it's so important. It helps people see our other posts, our posts that are maybe more directly related to business. So to you, what really makes a piece of content engaging?
Yeah, so it's usually something, and this is hard to do because it's almost like luck a little bit, right? So it's always the goal, but I could tell you, in a month, maybe one post on LinkedIn really goes like more viral, gets thousands of views for me, and a lot of other ones will get hundreds. So same thing on Instagram. Like every single time I'm trying to offer value, and I'm trying to make it engaging so that people will see the value I'm trying to offer, but it doesn't always happen. So don't get disheartened if it's not happening. It will happen, and sometimes it'll surprise you. But what I'm finding now are, I see, I, it really depends. So sometimes it's a quote, and the quote will work because my audience really resonates with that particular singer or something, even though it's about my business. Okay. So sometimes it's because I had a really funny cultural like gif and I use it to explain a point, right? So like I had this on my Facebook where I took my puppy this week to the vet, and the vet suggested that maybe when her adult teeth come in, she might need braces on this one tooth because it's going into the roof of her mouth. And I'm like, lady, I got 4 kids who all need braces. I'm definitely not putting them on a puppy. So
Whose teeth are gonna fall out. Yeah, that's fun.
right. Well, apparently it's the adult tooth she's concerned
Oh,
about.
okay.
But anyway, I wrote about it on my Facebook, and I made this funny gif of my puppy with like these fake like braces sticker on her. No, actually the gif was like of a person who thought like was looking bewildered, and then my puppy was like little in a picture with fake braces. And I talked about like, you work so hard in your business to earn money and be successful, and then all of a sudden they want you to spend your money on what? So people thought that was really funny. And but I've also done ones where she's on there and it's sort of bombed. So it's a lot of trial and error. You want to, I'm finding that gifts do really well now. And just like fun tip for your audience that I learned from your social team. They're on Instagram. I don't know if you follow them, but they do great stuff. So she, she guided me to this website where you can remove the background on a GIF, and that's the way you can make it look more branded. So you can have it on your colors, but then you can very quickly take the background off. It does it in like seconds, and then drag that in and put that over, a background that looks more like your brand. So those have been doing really well in that space for me. All that said, we're recording this right before the election, so everything is down. Ads are down. I actually turned mine off, and my organic content is down as well. So
Yeah, that's just a nuance. And also around the holiday time, I always tell people all the businesses who spend 10 months out of the year not running ads all of a sudden want to run ads around the holidays. So it's just one of those times where there's a lot more competition. Ad costs are generally higher around that time. So similar to what you said, just keep trying,
yeah,
do that trial and error, but also be cognizant of what's happening in the world. Don't
yeah,
just think that because one post didn't get a ton of engagement. It could have been a number of things. So don't let that stop you from ever trying that again. It doesn't mean
for
it's
sure.
a failure, but yeah, also it's so crazy, and we'll talk about this is a perfect segue into kind of batching and creating content, but
Yeah.
so many times I'll have so much content batched and then something crazy will happen in the world, and I'll like go
Mhm.
in and turn that scheduled content off and put something that's more like in the moment. So
Absolutely.
so when it comes to creating and batching content, do you have any tips? I know we talked a little bit about scheduling tools, and I use scheduling tools absolutely. So do you have any tips for people on how to create content in a time efficient way and finding time? Because we are all very busy as business owners. So how do you find
Yeah.
time to create content? How do you batch? Give us your tips.
Yeah. Okay. So I love talking about this, and I am deep in creating a course about this to teach this to a lot of people. So this is what I do for my business, and this is what I do with my clients. I'm really busy doing it now because we're getting ready for the new year. So, what I actually do with people is I have a system called Everyday Marketing, and there are 6 steps to it. And the first 3 steps are where we plan, and then schedule, and then assign ambassadors in your business. So, what does that mean? That means that I work with clients, or I do this for myself, in order to plan all their year's content in a month. So that sounds crazy, except
I
for
love
when you
it though.
actually, yeah. So except for when you dive in and do it. So here's what that looks like. You pick 9 to 12 themes for your business. So one theme might be testimonials. That's really easy. One theme is always sales posts. One theme might be Sunday reset. Maybe you have that's like your motivation things. You don't do the boring Monday motivation, but like, I don't know about you, but I always I lose a little bit of steam on the weekend.
Mhm.
And then it takes me a little time to get back into things on Monday. Like my mind works really fast all week and then I kind of like forgot it all
Yep.
by Monday. So like maybe Sunday reset, that's something. So you pick these various themes and 9 to 12 of them, and then you create around 15 posts for each theme. Okay. Oh, and one theme is always the calendar. So your business calendar, the seasonal calendar, and the social calendar, days that would apply to your business. So you create those themes, then you create content for those themes, and then you create the actual posts, the images that you can use with those themes. So that implies that you've already created sort of like some slides in some templates in Canva you can use, and I work with people to do that too. But you create a style guide in Canva with your photos and the kind of images and the kind of gifs and everything that you want in there and the fonts, and you do that once, and then you can go in there and let's say you do one theme at a time, and you create one post and then you copy it and then you create another one with similar style but always a little different. And it's hard to visualize this with where we're talking on a podcast, but I show people how to do this. So what happens when you're done? You have 180 posts and you schedule them in something like I use Hootsuite, but I got grandfathered into their like original price way back when. So I don't know if I would sign up for it now, but I maybe would. It's very good. I like it. I've also used SmarterQ, or Facebook has their publisher, so you could even just post it there for free. But you schedule it. So now you've got 180 posts. You've got about 3 a week, 3 to 4 a week. And like you said, you have to be cognizant of if there's a pandemic, you better go in and pause
Yeah.
those and adjust them, or you look like a fool. Like I'm sure you like everyone, like I did, got content and emails that looked really jarring when
Yeah.
the pandemic hit, and you could tell that it was scheduled. And I felt embarrassed for people. So
But that's not saying you shouldn't schedule. It's so much easier to go in and make
right,
tweaks and edits if it's specifically
exactly.
already there. A lot of
Yes,
people, when the pandemic hit, a lot of businesses just stopped
right.
because they were
No,
like,
don't stop. Figure
so
out how to serve.
if they would have had something to go in and edit and tweak, I think it would have been a lot easier for them. But because a lot of businesses had so much on their hands dealing with the pandemic that they just completely halted all social media. And well, I'm talking about me. I pretty much stopped posting on Instagram for like 2 months. But if I would have had something scheduled, I could have just easily tweaked it. But I just felt like so stalled because I had so many other things to do. So
Yeah.
it's not saying that you shouldn't schedule stuff. You 100% should, but
Yeah.
you do also need to be aware that you might need to make a couple tweaks.
Right, right. So the P is plan, the S is schedule, and then the A is assign ambassadors. So if you're a one woman show, like or a man show, then you don't need an ambassador. You're it.
Right.
Maybe or maybe you have a virtual assistant who helps you, but ambassadors would be, let's say you're like a whole healthcare practice or a whole healthcare facility. So you need to have ambassadors on site who are going to be there to capture the day-to-day things that are happening. So it should be someone who's really savvy, who's anyway got their phone at their hip and they're used to taking photos and grabbing stories of their day-to-day life uh, in personally. So that's going to be a really good person to be an ambassador. And then I teach them how to, get that content to the person who's actually going to be posting it. So at this point, if you're the business owner and you have support, you can kind of step back because you've got an ambassador and you've created your really important content, like the sales things.
Mhm.
And then what you're going to work on from here on out are like stories and engagement and things that don't have to be as like branded. So that doesn't have to be you. That could be someone else. But I like the business owner to be involved with creating that content that really tells their story. And that's the stuff that you can schedule ahead of time, because unless you change your business, you don't necessarily need to rethink those things.
Right.
So then, so we do that, and then the last three steps are to is so it's PSA and then SEL. So S is for stories. That's something you're going to work on like every week to week, because that's more based on things that are happening. And then the E is for engagement. So I'm sure you do this as well, but really the power of these channels is in like the messages that you're able to do. So the direct messages. So trying to follow people who are your ideal clients, and then have something that you can send to them in order to get them over to download your freebie, or to find out about something you're offering, let them know about a webinar or whatever it is that you're doing in your business. And then the L is to lock it down. So you have this plan of what you're going to do day to day, and then when you're not on it, you lock it. So for me, I have my all my social media, I have only an hour of screen time on my phone, and I work in social media, so I spend a lot of time
You
on
do.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah, on my phone, I have only an hour of screen time, and I of course know the code. But what happens when you set a screen time on your social media is that every time you go to use it after your hour, it's going to ask you if you want 1 more minute, or 15 more minutes, or an hour. And I dare you to put an hour. Like, you're not going to. You put the 15 minutes, and then you end up just not like jumping on to check things.
Mhm.
So that's how that system works, and I've seen it work for myself and for my clients.
Awesome. I love it. It makes it seem, when you first said that you batch a year's worth of social media content, my jaw actually opened and I was like, oh my gosh. But just breaking it down like that, picking 9 to 15 themes, I think you said, and then creating like 15 posts for each. Like, I don't usually take notes when I'm recording a podcast, but I literally took notes, and it just makes it seem so much more manageable. So I love that way of looking at it. Like, I've always created content around themes, but not like, I didn't even think of testimonials being a theme. I didn't really think. And I'm glad that you brought up those like calendars, because I feel like so many businesses, that's all they post is like, today is National Ice Cream Day. Today is, and they put all these random days, but they don't tie in any way back to the business. So I love how you brought it up, that that should just be one out of like 15 themes,
Yeah,
and just like pick a
exactly.
couple, pick a couple
Right.
that make sense
Yeah.
for your business. Cause like, going back to my indoor playground, if I said like, oh, it's National Ice Cream Day, what's your kid's favorite ice cream flavor? Like, yes, it ties in because, everyone loves ice cream, but like, I could have maybe made a better use of that post. Instead of, I could have, in a better way, I could have picked a different day that more directly related to like my business, because we didn't sell ice cream.
Yeah,
So
you would need to sell ice cream, and you would only post that
yeah,
if
I feel like those
you're
days are a
promoting your
little bit
ice cream.
overused. Yeah, a little bit overused. So I'm glad that you mentioned that that should just be one topic and maybe not your entire social
Yeah.
media strategy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just a
totally.
really quick clarification, two quick clarification questions I had from that. How often do you typically recommend posting? I know it's not a hard and fast rule, but what's your typical rule of thumb?
Yeah, so and I post every day, but I'm in marketing. So I feel more pressure to show up in that way on all the channels that I spend time. So I try to post something every day. And also, once you get in the habit of content creation, like, I don't know about you, but you start to think of a million more things. Like, you almost can't shut up.
That's
You
why I
have to
started
hold
taking
back.
notes, because I got ideas and I was like, oh, I could do
Right, you
this.
have
I
to
could do
hold
this.
back.
And I couldn't even wait
Right.
until I like played back the audio, because I'm like, wait, I have these ideas. I have to write them down now.
Yeah.
So I totally
Yes.
get that.
So that's me. But I think the important thing for your listeners is that you just be consistent. I think it's okay to just show up 3 times a week. I probably wouldn't do less than that if you're trying to be consistent. If you're trying to build your audience, it's hard to get a lot of momentum if you're not posting something on close to a daily basis. So I would try to be daily if you can, but I think that you could show up there at a minimum of 3 times a week. And the nice thing about batching and posting ahead, like we're saying, is that if you have a week where you're on vacation or you're really busy, you're on a deadline, you can not log in and the world will continue to spin. It'll be okay, but you'll still be showing up. I don't recommend going totally dark without having, a virtual assistant or someone else who's going to be just keeping an eye on things if you were to get an important message, or just, I don't know, you could get like a lewd comment or something. Hopefully you have filters turned on, but like you just never know
Right.
what is going on. So it's good to have at least you or someone else be checking those channels, but the pressure is not on when you have those posts pre-scheduled.
Awesome. So my last clarifying question is, do you recommend scheduling 100% of your content, or is there some sort of like balance between posting on the fly versus
Yeah.
scheduled content?
Yeah, okay, good question. So I try to schedule that year of content, right? And then during the week, that social ambassador is going to be capturing
Okay.
things, and you
Gotcha.
might be the ambassador. Is going to be capturing things mostly with the intention of being in stories, because they're not going to be like, depending on who your person is in their business, it's not going to be like these perfect photos that you would necessarily use, but in your posts. But they're going to be capturing things, and sometimes it is going to be awesome. So you're going to want to get that in there. And that's why I like for the year's worth of content to still only be like 180 posts max. 3 posts a week. You've got 4 more days there. And in your scheduling app, maybe you have a whole lot going on a certain week and it just didn't make sense to do the post you had scheduled. That's okay. You can move it, you could move to the next year on that date, whatever it is.
Got it. I love that.
Yeah, so mix it up.
I like that. Yeah. Cause I think a lot of people, when they think about batching, they forget that there's that extra piece is you want to still hop in and it's not just on autopilot.
Totally.
So, something that I always like to ask at the end is, a big takeaway. What would you like people to kind of take away from this episode? If there could just be one action item you want people to take after this.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is when you are creating content to always have the end user in mind and think about, how am I helping Sarah? Have your ideal client or customer in mind and say, how am I helping her with what I'm creating? If it's all about you, then just put it away, no matter how good that story is. It has to be about helping that person. So if that person will find it funny, then okay, share it. But it has to be about them.
I love that. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of
Also,
your,
if I could, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going
Keep
to
going.
add for your listeners. So if I actually have a list of a bunch of content themes for ideas, and I have a list of what's engaging and of how to make your content more engaging. So my audience is health and wellness experts. So you'll see it's got images of health and wellness, doctors and things, but it'll apply to anybody, no matter what business you're in or where you are. So you can get that on my website if you think that'll help you.
That's actually what I was going to ask. So I was going to
Oh,
say,
sorry.
so I know it's perfect. I'm glad that you took charge with that. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes or in the description of this video, depending on if you're listening or watching. But where can people find you other than that freebie, which I hope everyone definitely takes advantage of? But where is the best place for people to find more about you or to connect with you?
Yeah, good question. So my Facebook, I'm Sparker Marketing, and it's Sparker without an E. So SPARKR, Sparker
I'll link it
Marketing.
too in case anyone.
Yeah, and on my Instagram, I'm Wendy.Margolin.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us today. I learned so much and I need to get into gear with my organic social media marketing. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I need to get into gear with my ads. So we'll collaborate. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me. It's been great talking to you.
You too. Thank you, Wendy.
Bye.